Alright, hello. Going to be making a little bit of sushi today for the baseball game. And I've been making sushi for a couple of years. I'm not a professional, but I enjoy doing it. It's fun to eat. To me, sushi, honestly, it's really just the nori paper on the outside, but it's an hors d'oeuvre like any other hors d'oeuvre. It's not as fancy as it seems. You know, you can put rice and pretty much anything else you want to put in there that will go with rice. The nori paper is almost inconsequential. It really just holds it together. So, you know, any combination of rice and cream cheese and fruits and vegetables and spices. Today, what I'm going to do is I've got a little bit of chicken, which I've used a scissor to kind of shred it up. You don't want pieces that are too chunky. You want stuff that you can kind of lay on top of the rice and be able to fold your roll and have it stay together. So I've got some shredded chicken with some mayonnaise, with some chili and garlic, some chili flake, a little bit of pepper. And then on the side I've got some green peppers and some onions. I thought that would go nicely with the rice, which I'm going to cook with some pine nuts and some raisins. And then I'm going to dice up some apple. So basically what you need is you need nori paper, which you can get at Walmart. It's about $2 for 20 sheets. What I do is I double them up, so that way it's a lot easier to roll. So it's a double roll and you'll get 6 pieces. And it's funny because when you make sushi, you really don't need very much rice. A cup of rice and, 2 little pieces of chicken, it goes a long way. So basically your basic setup is you're going to need some containers. So when it's done, you can put it in the fridge later on. Your nori paper, which is only about a couple of dollars. You need a bowl of water and a spoon to spread the rice. The water will keep the rice from sticking to everything because the rice is really sticky and it makes it unmanageable. If you resist it the first time you make sushi, the next time, believe me, once you start using the water, you won't stop. You need a sharp knife. I always use a serrated knife. I think the serrated knife gives you great leverage, and it's always sharp. It's got a great sharp edge, so when you cut your sushi, it doesn't tug the nori. The nori is kind of sticky and stretchable once you start applying moisture to it, and if there's any tug, that you're going to ruin your roll. I'm going to shred up my apple, but I don't want it to oxidize, so I'm going to wait until my rice is ready and cooled down. I got it in the steamer right now. Basically, you just need a cutting board, and then you're going to put your little bamboo mat onto the cutting board. Then you're going to double up your nori paper, seal it together at the seam with a little bit of water. Then you're going to spread your rice across the nori. You're going to leave about 3/4 of an inch at the end of the roll, so that when you roll it, and you don't wet it until the end, kind of like when you're licking an envelope. Because if you wet it in the beginning, when you're spreading your rice out, so it'll seal, and by the time you get there, it'll be shriveled up and it's not going to work. So you'll end up ruining 2 sheets of nori. So basically, I'm just going to hang out. I'm going to wait till my rice is done, which I have over here in the steamer. They tell you to use, if you watch videos about making sushi, they tell you to use sushi rice. For me, I'd rather use jasmine rice. Jasmine rice is much easier to deal with. It's nice and light and soft and sticky. And it's no fuss, no muss. It's 1.5 cups of clean water to 1 cup of nori. It steams in about 10 minutes. When that red light switches over to yellow, it's done. I'll stir it up. I'll open the top and kind of let some of the moisture come out. Boom, there it goes. So basically, I'll open it up. I'm going to stir that up and let some of the moisture come out, because after it cools down, when I make my sushi, once it goes into the Tupperware and it goes back in the fridge to set up for a little while, you'll get some more condensation. You don't want the rice to be too sloppy. So I'm going to stop the video for a second and stir my rice. Okay, there's my rice. It's cooling off right now. It probably needs at least about another 10 minutes to cool off. I got some fans running in here. And I always like to add a little something to my rice. Just adds a little bit more character, a little bit more flavor, a little bit more texture profile to it. I added some pine nuts and also some raisins. I thought that would go well with the apple and the chicken and the peppers. And then at the last minute, I'm going to add some green leaf lettuce. That'll add a nice little crunch to it. So there's my setup. I think what I'm going to do right now is go slice that apple nice and thin. I don't want it to oxidize too much while I'm waiting to start construction. Probably going to get, for this amount of rice, maybe about 3 double rolls. So, you know, the rice itself is maybe $1. It's about $3 for the jasmine rice, and I used a cup. The rest of the stuff, you know, literally we're talking a couple of bucks. I mean, this is maybe $5 worth of materials. You're going to get 18 pieces of sushi. It's probably $30 retail for $5. So making sushi at home is really cost effective. And it's fun. It gives you something to do. Okay, I've cut my apple long and thin, kind of like a julienne style. A little bit goes a long way. You want the crunch of the apple. You don't want it to be cooked. You know, if that's your preference, you can do that as well. But yeah, you want to have some fresh elements in there for crunch and texture. And this way it really retains all of its good, clean, crisp flavor. And if you see, I only use maybe about 1/3 of the apple. So again, you really don't need much ingredients to make. Like my goal here is to make probably 3 double rolls, so 6 sheets of nori. Okay, so that's about the amount of apple I got there. That's enough to make at least 3 double rolls. It's probably enough there to make 6. Anyway. Alright, I'm just about ready to start constructing. This nori here, I've probably had this in my refrigerator in the deli drawer for probably 6 months. This stuff, I mean, the package is even open. It's really resilient. You know, it's once you add moisture to it, it's just gonna it's really gonna be really pliable. It's gonna flex. It won't split or anything like that. It really keeps for a good long time in the fridge. So basically, like I said, I'm not a great tight roller, so I use 2 sheets. They're just going to be bigger rolls, bigger pieces of sushi. It makes it much easier to roll it and seal it without it falling apart. You know, the experts, they can get away with doing the different styles with 1 roll. I need 2 sheets. The 2 sheets makes it much easier. Probably a good idea to start off that way. Anyways, the nori has 2 different sides. One side is the presentation side. It's shinier and it's flat. And then the other side is the side you're going to use. It's the grooved side. And this is the side you want to do. That's the side you want to use. So basically what I end up doing is I'll put some moisture along this seam with my finger and then put this one on top of it. And then put a little bit more moisture on there and let it seal. And then once you put the rice on top of it, that joint will seal. The back side, you'll go about 95% of the way up with rice, maybe about a 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit less of rice. And then you'll leave that side until you roll it. Once you're ready to seal, then you put moisture on that lip and roll it over and leave it there for a sec so it'll seal up nice and dry. And then you'll be set. And then once you take it out of your bamboo roller, you know, then you're just going to cut it up. I sharpened my knife. I ran it through the sharpener. Again, that's one of the most important things when you're making sushi is to have a sharp knife. You go through all this work and all this preparation to get all your ingredients laid out and seasoned and sliced. You know, you got all the stuff ready to go. The last thing you need is a dull knife that's going to ruin your roll. So make sure you have a sharp knife. Alright, I've sealed the 2 joints together. As you can see, it starts to curl up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread out my rice, and then I'll be ready to add all my other ingredients, and then I'll be ready to roll. Literally. Alright, as you can see, I got good coverage with my rice. I left a little space at the end. Right here, about 1 inch off the front lip. You want to dip your fingers, like all 4 fingers, in the water, and just make a little groove. You probably can't see it too good on video, but usually you make a little groove, and what you do is you put any type of mayo or cream cheese that you cut in strips and put it in that groove, and then the stuff that goes on top, it kind of locks it in place. So I made the groove anyway, just force of habit, and I'm probably going to like lay my chicken in there So that's the clunkiest part of it. That'll lay in the groove and keep it nice and flat. The rice doesn't have to be perfect, as long as you get enough rice on there, like I said, maybe about a 1/4 inch in thickness and depth, so that way when you roll it, it's going to be round, and it's not going to be loose on the ends and falling apart on you. You want to put enough rice in there so when you roll it, it's going to be nice and round and plump. And as you can see, I barely used any rice. I'm probably only going to make 3 double rolls. I'm probably going to have extra rice. And here's my ingredients again. Probably going to have leftover stuff there, and there's really not that much there. So I'm going to continue building this. You want to keep your mat. Obviously you don't want to put it on the table. So I've got it on the cutting board right up to the edge, and then when you're ready to roll it, you're going to put your thumbs just off the center and use all of your fingers literally in the roll to hold on to get that first roll. Once you get it rolling, you're using the mat. Okay? Okay, so I went ahead and filled that up. So basically, I've got my nori, I've got rice, it's got pine nuts and raisins in it. Then I've got my chicken that I have seasoned with mayonnaise, and there's a little bit of garlic and chili powder. And then I've got my sliced apples on top. I put a little green leaf lettuce on there for crunch. Then I've got some green peppers, some onions. I put a little bit of sesame seed on there, and this thing's good to go. So we're ready to roll. Alright, I'm going to try and set up the camera here on the side because I can't film and roll it at the same time. So I'll try and do this as quickly as I can. And like I said, at the end, we're going to wet that lip so that way it can seal. You don't do it in the beginning, you do it at the end. So here we go. I put a little bit too much stuff in there that time, so that's something that you really want to take into consideration. All right, I'm going to leave it on that end. I'm going to look at the edges. You can use your finger. Make sure it's not falling out the sides. Just push it in. I'm sure this thing isn't going to be sealed perfect, but as long as it stays, that's what we're trying to do. All right, let's unroll it and see what happens. All right, here we go. Not too shabby. As you can see, it's a nice fat roll. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to take that mat out, clean it off. I'm going to put it down on the cutting board. And then sometimes, when you're really great at rolling sushi, you can cut that thing in half and cut it in 3 pieces and you get 6. But if you don't have perfect edges, just slice the edges off and then just cut it in half and cut it in 3 pieces. So, you can clean up your mistakes. I think if you look on the bottom, I got a little bit of lettuce sticking out, but otherwise it's sealed. So I could just pull that out, use a little bit of water, seal it up. Like I said, pull the mat out, just let it sit for a second, and then it'll be ready to slice. But, that thing is fat as a house. It looks like a whale. So, a little bit less ingredients. I haven't made sushi in probably 3 or 4 months, but, again, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it stays sealed and as long as it's yummy. Alright, so I've cut my roll. I ended up with 6 pieces, and I ended up finishing it with a little bit of ginger, a little bit of salt, and a little more chili powder just to make sure it has good flavor. I cut off the ends because the ends weren't perfect, and it tasted really good. So if you have good ingredients, some nori paper and rice, you probably don't even need a mat. You could use anything that you could roll, like a towel, or something like that if you don't have a bamboo mat. But sushi, it's fun, it's pretty easy, and it's really cheap to make it at home. So I hope you try it and enjoy. Thank you.